This is the shop. Before I get started on the project, I wanted to get it clean and organized and lay out the tools and all of the parts so I can kind of get a plan in my head. I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to build a bike, of course. It's not a big space, but there's plenty of space. It's just organized. Everything's stowed away like you'd find a place on a boat. Let's take a look at what I've got here. This is some of the accessories. It's going to be a tool kit. It's a Revo loop replacement tube, which I'm not going to use on this bike because I've got tubulars. So that's going to come out of there. Bursman multi-tool. Couple of those. You don't need a whole lot unless you plan on doing major repairs on the side of the road, which I never am. There's a pump with a gauge that's going to be mounted on the frame, a rear view mirror. Got a couple of really fine spoke wrenches. Those are great. Speed plate pedals. These have plus 3 millimeter over the standard spindle length. Give me a little bit wider stance. Hambini asked me to create a threaded rod bottom bracket installation tool, so that's what I did. According to his advice, this is Hambini's bottom bracket. It's one piece, which is kind of cool. Really precision stuff. Super light. And a couple press tools that'll go on either side of this when I'm mounting the bottom bracket. I've got a Wahoo computer, so I've got a Wahoo speed sensor, Wahoo cadence sensor I'm going to put on. This is a mounting bracket for my rear view moonlight. These are cheap carbon Chinese bottle cages, but they're really nicely made. A lot of times when you see these things, that little triangular part there is all kind of cockeyed. These are not. They weigh about 16 grams a piece. There's some brake pads that came with the Far Sports rims I bought. It's over here. It's a SQ Labs saddle. I like those saddles. They work real well for me. Then I got Shimano Ultegra Di2, which is the electronic shifting. That's front derailleur, rear derailleur. That there is the GS, which is the longer cage. Those are the shift levers. Direct mount brakes, which means it's got a double bolt mount, which makes it more stable and I suppose more reliable. That's a KMC top of the line chain there. My local bike shop owner, Art, who's an Art major, advised me to get the multicolored chain. I've got some of that orange working on the bike frame and he knew that, so he talked me into that. Crankset for this particular build is going to be a Rotor. I like Rotor. Let's see what this looks like. What I like about it is, that's the axle, that's 24. These are CNC machined from one piece. I think it looks good, but it's also just kind of cool that they did that. I did not like the Ultegra crankset. It's okay, but I'm not sure about that 4-bolt mounting system there. And also here in Asia, I'm in Thailand, people have been reporting some problems with those Holotech cranks kind of coming apart. And that's not good. I don't know that that would happen, but in any case, I like the Rotor crank, so I got the Rotor crank set. That's the axle that goes with it. chain set. It's also Rotor. It's one piece, CNC'd one piece. I kind of like that. Isn't that cool? Then we have all the Shimano gizmos you need for the Di2. There's the A junction that's mounted up usually on the down tube or in the right side bar end. It's their B junction parts. That's the actual junction box. This here, I forget what that is. It's part of the B junction. That's a wireless sending unit, so I can pair the thing to my iPhone. Battery charger, 3 boxes of 1,000 millimeter electrical cable, 3 boxes of 300 millimeter. I ended up buying 3 different cassettes. This one here is a 1428, which is kind of an odd thing for a grown-up, but I'm 70 and I know what gears I use, and around here it's mostly flat. What I like about the 1428 is it's really close steps between each cog. But to use that on this bike, I need the different front derailleur. The one I have is a GS, which is the longer cage. I actually need the SS, which is the shorter cage, for that to work. I also bought an 1132, which I plan on interchanging as needed with the Rotor. Now the Rotor is a work of art. And that's one of the reasons I bought it. One of the other reasons I bought it is because it's hard to get out of the box. No. These first 8 cogs are CNC'd one piece out of aluminum. I'm sorry, out of steel. These cogs here bolt on to the first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Excuse me, cogs. What am I thinking? It's 11 speed. But look at the workmanship on that. Now I'm curious, as you look inside there, there's only these that are going to grab onto the free hub body of the rear hub. Normally, a splined cassette like you're used to, Shimano, Campy, each one of those cogs extends further so that each one is roughly the diameter, outside diameter of the free hub body, and they're all have keys on it so they match the splines on that free hub body, so you can't put them on wrong. Each one of those cogs, therefore, has a firm grip on the exterior of the free hub body. This is not the case with Rotor's design. It's only right here on that small cog, not the smallest, I think that's the 3rd gear, where it's going to bite onto the free hub. Now, I've read some comments from people saying that may end up putting bite marks into the free hub body because it's going to put a lot of pressure and torque right on that point. Don't know, we'll see what happens, but I couldn't resist getting this thing because it's just an engineering feat, and it's also maybe half the weight. That's an 1128. It's 1132. That's 1428. It's definitely half the weight of the 1428, and probably about the same on that. It's a beautiful piece of workmanship. So the Rotor crankset and the Rotor free cassette, it's going to be a fun thing to play with. Now this is the homemade wheel truing stand. Obviously, I'm not going to attempt to true this wheel with the tire on it. I just put the tire in there so I'd have a place to put it, and also kind of display. These are Far Sports carbon rims. It's got this, I guess that's a 3K weave there. And also, I don't know if you can see it there, but it's also got these little grooves milled into the brake track of the wheel, and that's to help dispel water. Sapim CX-ray spokes. And I went with carbon tie hubs, made in Italy. It's a damn good hub. It's super lightweight, but that's not why I bought it. A lot of times when I'm purchasing things, I purchase based on, it's just great engineering, period. Now that applies to a whole lot of hubs out there, so why carbon tie? Well, one of the things Hambini said about wheel hubs was carbon tie hub is a really fine hub. So that kind of influenced my thinking. Anyway, you don't have to put a lot of pressure on this quick release skewer. It's just in there to hold it in. This design came from a wheel building guru, an English guy. He's pretty well known all over the world. I think his name is Roger Moulton. I'm sorry if I got that wrong, but I don't remember. Anyway, I downloaded his book on building wheels, and I meant to actually build the wheels as part of this. But somehow or another, my communication with Far Sports got screwed up, and I'm sure it was my fault. And they sent the wheels fully built, so it saved me some time, but I actually was looking forward to building the wheels. I'll get some more wheels and build those, and so I'm not worried. Now the tires I'm going with are made by Challenge Tech. It's called Paris-Roubaix, and the reason they call it that is because inside, this is a tubular by the way, inside under the tread is a puncture protection strip. So it's a little bit heavier of a tire, but not much. And I've been riding Paris-Roubaix open tubulars on my other bike for about a year, and they feel really good. Why Challenge? Well, the owner of the company is my friend, and the factory's about a 12K ride from my house. And no matter what I do, Alex insists on giving me his stuff. And I told him, you don't need a 70-year-old to be sponsoring. But I feel like I've got a sponsor now, so it's kind of cool. Thank you very much, Alex. Challenge Tech. Beautiful tires. Now, I don't think I'm going to buy the two-tone in the future. I've been riding the tan sidewalls on the Paris-Roubaix open tube on my other bike, but they just get black eventually, and it looks like crap. So you may as well just get black. What the hell? It's a minor thing, but listen to this free hub. That's kind of quiet as a mouse. You're going to have to do something when you're approaching somebody from behind. I've got Urus, Campanola Urus wheels with a G3 spoke pad on my other bike, and I love those wheels. I love the hub on there. That Campy hubs are hard to beat. It makes about twice that volume of noise, but it's a lovely noise, and I think riders like to hear that. So I'll have to get this out on the road and see if I fall in love with a quiet hub. Anyway, Far Sports sent these super lightweight quick release skewers, and I'm unsure whether or not there's going to be enough clamping pressure with something like this, we shall see. But I guess if people were having catastrophic accidents because their quick release skewers came loose when they're riding, we'd be hearing about it. So the cool thing about this wheel touring stand, it's a very simple design. This thing goes under there, and obviously if the tire's not there, this gauge comes up to the edge of the rim, and you just kind of position it so that you can see the lateral movement or not, hopefully not, of the rim. And then this one here you use to check the hop, if there's any hop in the wheel. Now that hop there is the tubular, not the rim. I've already kind of looked at these and they're really right on. I could use it like this and kind of get an idea. And it's hard to see that, but you can probably see it. There's not much movement in there. That's about a 1/2 mil space between the edge of that finder and the rim. This place doubles as a bake shop. I worked forever as a chef, so I do a lot of baking, cooking. I have to move things around, and of course this space was built underneath my terrace. It overlooks the water. The water's right there, and it's on a hillside. So first thing I did was install this piece all the way from that pillar to this pillar, just so as I'm working in here doing the rest of the build out of this shop, I don't fall down the damn hillside. And the first thing I did after getting that retaining bar in place was build that table. Once I built that table, I was able to not have to work on my hands and knees anymore, and I built that table. And then I just tied them together with this piece here. It's like a miter table design. This piece actually lifts out, and it was intended to be a modular thing where I can put different equipment in there, but it's made for miter saw. Anyway, everything's kind of stowed because the weather here, I don't get water into the shop, but the air, it degrades stuff. All this stuff up mounted on the wall, it's kind of cheap stuff. And I don't worry about it. It works when I need to use it, and it's pretty much everything. Looky here, I got a visitor. We're outside. This place gets visited by water monitors. I got a 5 or 6 foot long water monitor that's walked in here. Pythons, good Lord. Kind of a nice place to do work. Anyway, the rest of the bike, sorry about that. This is what came with the frame from Yoeleo. It's fork. Obviously, it's tapered fork steer. Yoeleo brand integrated bars. Since this frame is a rim brake frame, I'm not going to be feeding cables down the head tube. Brake cables will go in here, out here, and then down to the frame, in here, out here, down to the frame, down to the front brake. This, yeah, looking at it upside down, this rear brake, front brake. And then the DI2 cables are going to go in here. I'm going to mount the A junction as a bar end plug, and I'm going to put the wireless thing up in here. And instead of using the Y splitter, which is kind of standard, I've got it, I could use it, but I was watching Shane Miller, GP Llama on YouTube, and what he did, he got the idea from somebody, so it's not like one person's a genius. We all build on what we learn from others. He took the shifter wire from the right shifter down into the port on the bottom. I don't know where I... He ran the electronic wire all the way over and down and plugged it in here. So he eliminated the Y connector. And he put the wireless unit in there. So the bottom line is he only had one electric wire coming out, and that was out the left side, and he kind of ran it in parallel with the brake cable, and he's going to put some shrink fit tubing on there to hold it together so it's not two different things flopping around. And that goes right back to the left side of the top tube and into the port for the rear brake. I'm sorry, the down tube. It seemed like a pretty slick way to do it. So Yoeleo sends you all of this stuff. You get the fork, you get the headset, you get all these miscellaneous parts, spacers, an out front computer mount, GoPro mount. This is all stuff for the headset. This is an alternate piece that can be used on the seat post depending on the kind of rails you have on your seat. It's a little surround piece for keeping the water from going down the seat post. 2 different rear derailleur hangers, 4 different styles of quarter turn mounts for your computer, the associated hardware to mount this stuff on that and that onto your handlebar. It mounts right there. So, pretty slick. And then of course you get a seat post and a frame. So I'm right pleased with all of that. And what I did first is I got to find out if this opening here is round and the right bore. And the same on the other side, drive side. We're looking at the non-drive side here. So I told you I bought the Hambini engineering bottom bracket for this, and talking with him, one of the things he said, he did a drawing of what he calls a go, no go. And it's just a little aluminum puck that either fits in this opening or doesn't fit. And one side is 41.95 millimeters. And the other side is 42. The 41.95 should go in there. The 42 should not. And that's the case for both sides. So I had a local machine shop that my friend Alex, the Challenge Tech Tire Company guru, uses. And they whipped up this go, no go, cost next to nothing. In fact, Alex didn't make me pay him back for making it for me. It's really clean work in there. Paint job is really nice. I can't find any real flaws. Of course, the closest thing to a flaw is you look at openings like this and how they get the paint so it doesn't flake off around there, because those are temperamental spots. The same thing with the mounts on the brake. There's minor imperfections of the paint around there. Of course, it's all going to be covered up. I think it's really a well-done paint job. So the plan is to get started on this tomorrow, and what I'm going to do first, it's a new frame. You're buying it online. You're kind of looking at the frame geometry drawings and the specs for all the angles and the lengths and head tube, all of that stuff. And you kind of want to match it up to what you've been riding. So I did that. I know the frame size is the right size. What I don't know is if the reach is going to be the same. I know the reach of this bike, it's awfully hard to actually measure the reach on your bike. I've done it and I keep getting different measurements. So what I need to know before I go to the trouble of wiring all of this stuff in this handlebar is if the combination of this bar and the length of the reach on this tube is going to be right for me. Because this is a shorter stem than I've ever used before. And it's got a shorter reach that's only 80 millimeters reach, which is from to the front of the bar here. And the drop is only 120, which is kind of tight for my fat hands, but I think it'll work. But I need to set the headset up, get the fork in there, position this on the fork steer about where I think it ought to be. And then I'm going to have to take some real measurements once I get the seat mounted on and see how that matches up with what I'm riding now, because I've adjusted what I've got so it's really perfect for me. We'll see. That's going to be step one, because like I say, there's no point running DI2 and all of this and getting it all put together and go out for a ride and go, well, that sucks. It's too short. If anything, it would be too short, I'm guessing. However, the stated reach on this frame is a little bit longer than what I've been able to get when I've measured my existing frame. So we shall see. That'll be basically step one. Actually, step one was using that go no go, because if that thing ain't right, Hambini's bottom bracket is not going to fit in there, because that's a precision piece of equipment there. That feels good, but he told me that if this bore is not pretty darn right on, you try to put this one piece bottom bracket in the frame, it can fuck up the frame, and we don't want to fuck up the frame. So that's why I went to the trouble of having that go no go, and it looks okay. I sent Dr. Hambini an email a little while ago and asked him what he thought. I sent him photos of the go no go sitting in there, just barely bite onto the edge. So I think it's okay, but we'll see what Mr. Hambini has to say about that. Anyway, that's the front wheel. I'm loving what I see so far. That's going to be a fun project. Stick around. I hope you check it out as I go step by step. I hope I'm able to do that. Cheerio.